first game that we ever made where a stranger was like, yeah, we've been playing this game, Monster Magic. Actually, it was my wife was at a hairstylist and they were talking about apps. And he asked her, what apps do you guys do? And she said Monster Magic. And he pulled out his phone and was like, oh my God, that's our favorite game. And that was the first time that ever happened to us. And that's a cool feeling.
This is the Rising High Extended Tea Break, the game dev podcast bringing you the best practical, actionable advice for indie game developers. Brought to you by RisingHighAcademy.com. The kettle's on, so let's go listen in.
Hey there, Kevin here. Welcome to the Rising High Extended Tea Break. I am not joined with Julie today, but in this special spotlight episode, I am joined with Trey Smith. Now, this was an interview we recorded a little while ago. Trey is founder and CEO of Buildbox.com, and I'm privileged and honoured enough to call him a mentor of mine. He's been absolutely generous with his time, as he was again today. And yeah, I hope you get a lot out of this interview. It goes on for quite a while. I grill him on all things about building his company, game design, all that good stuff. So let's, without any delay, jump straight in. So I am thrilled today to be joined with the one and only Trey Smith. Thank you so much for joining with me today. It's an absolute honour and a privilege that you're here.
Thanks, man. I'm very excited. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I hope so. So listen, for people who don't know who you are, can you give us the short sort of intro bio piece, just so everyone can understand better who you are and what you're up to right now?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Trey Smith. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Buildbox, and we have game development software. It lets anyone create a video game without coding or scripting, any of that stuff. Been around since we had a soft launch in 2014. Official release was January 2015. Had over 100 games created with our software that have been featured by Apple or broken the top 100 of the App Store. A lot of our customers have crushed it, like this guy you might have heard of named Kevin. He's a pretty cool guy. David Bright created Color Switch, the first version with our game. Florian had some games that have crushed it, like Ball Jump. And so we're creating this whole game development company. It's been a blast. We've branched out into new software as well recently, which you guys will be hearing more about soon. And then this all started because we have a game company and we crossed 65 million downloads recently. We're still cranking out games. That was how all of this started. It's still a huge passion for us. It's nothing. We're actually even gearing up to do more games now. We are working on some cool partnerships and stuff. So, yeah, it's been an exciting ride, man. It's been really fun. I've been in the game whole development space since 2011 and love it. It's great.
That's awesome. So, thank you. It's super excited to hear you're doing more game stuff. I can't wait to delve into that from what you can tell us today a little bit more. But let's rewind back to 2011.
Okay.
Hide Nick from Odesk.
Yeah.
Kolo's Journey.
Kolo's Journey, the first one, yeah.
Which apparently was Guitar Hero versus a Simon Says.
That's right. You know, it's so funny. I always called this Simon Says, and then someone one day corrected me. They were like, no, the game's not called Simon Says. It's just called Simon. And I was like, oh, yeah, it is. I actually rebought that game. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you have like the circle and it has like, the red, green, blue, and then you have to match the thing, the pattern. And yeah, so we made a basic video game based off that. If you guys don't know, Nick is the CTO and co-founder of Buildbox. This guy literally coded the first version of Buildbox. Now we have a pretty big development team for a company our size, I think, but he leads them. This guy's an amazing coder, though, and he was the first hire I ever made in the game business back in 2011. He was in the Ukraine, hired him off of Odesk, which is Upwork now. He's since moved to the United States. We're great friends, partners, and so we've been working on Buildbox since. And still, every game we work on together. That's like we still get super passionate and crazy just about the game dev section. That's what excites us about creating the software. That's why we've made software, I think, that's a little bit different than most people. Yeah. Because we really get excited about that angle.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10 then, how much do you think you lucked out by hiring Nick?
Oh, man, like 11? Yeah, so it was interesting time, right? In 2011, there weren't many people hiring developers for mobile. Now, if you go now to Upwork and this stuff, there's a billion developers and a billion people hiring developers. Back then, there was a few developers that knew Objective-C and how to code apps for the Apple, for the iPhone App Store, and then few people hiring them. So I think like when I posted my first ad, I got like, 7 people applied to it for Kolo's journey. I hired Nik, definitely, no question. Let me tell you what you wouldn't find now. All right. Let me tell you, you can find a great developer. Nik will tell you his strong point is not development, it's art. Nik is like one of the most phenomenal 3D artists that I've ever met. And I've worked with a ton of different 3D artists over the years. Jump Pack, one of our first games, he did all the art for that. Also, Kolo's Journey, he did all the art for. And he's just really, really phenomenal. This guy's worked on major CG films. He worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, doing some art stuff for that, the video game. He worked on Showtime Boxing. So he's worked on like some big games. Overlord was an Xbox 360 game, was really big. He worked on. So this guy was like top tier 3D artist. And that's why I hired him really. And Kevin, I don't know if you were around back then, if you were seeing what we were up to back then, but I used to teach people. I was like, look, what you want to do is you want to go to Odesk. I was just teaching people what we did, right? And I was like, you want to go to Odesk?
I do. The infamous pineapple.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You want to hire a programmer who is also a 3D artist, right? Of course, it's what everyone wants to go to. And then, I started having all this feedback, and people were like, "Man, we can't find someone that can do that." So I lucked out with Nik being a very passionate, talented guy. But where I super lucked out with Nik in the beginning was finding a developer who's actually one of the most amazing 3D artists I've ever seen, because that cut cost tremendously when we were creating these initial games back in the day. You know?
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's a rare breed, isn't it, really? I mean, most people are just like either really good at one or the other, but yeah, that must, you really lucked out. Yeah, that's right. It's left in my brain, right? So, I mean, going on from that, I want to ask about the conversation you had with Nik, bringing him over to the US. But before I just touch on that, I've got to mention Monster Magic, because Monster Magic for me was by far my most favourite game that you released. Not just pure, it was so fun for me, and I know it was sort of like it was after Jetpack, right?
Yeah. So that was our
Jump Pack. Sorry.
Yeah, that was our first move into model and improving a game we already created. So we made Jump Pack. We used the same engine with some mild tweaks in different art, and that was not Nik. I hired a Flash animator. All the characters and everything in Flash. I agree. That's one of the, it's a beautiful game, man. I think that game, and it hit number 3 in the App Store, did really well. And I think that one deserved that. It was really, really a great game. I love that one.
Yeah, I was by far my favorite. Just from, I love the aesthetics, obviously, but I think the stuff you put in that game, you made it go upside down, and all the the massive power ups with the lightning.
Yeah,
it was just awesome, man. Okay, so I mean, just need to.
Yeah, it's funny. That was the first game that we ever made where a stranger was like, "Yeah, we've been playing this game, Monster Magic." Actually, it was my wife was at a hairstylist. And they were talking about apps, and he asked her, what apps do you guys do? And she said Monster Magic, and he pulled out his phone and was like, oh my God, that's our favorite game. And that was the first time that ever happened to us. And that's a cool feeling.
Amazing. I mean, how did you feel? That must have been amazing.
Oh, that was really cool. Really, really amazing. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on I just want to, I'm really curious of the conversation you had with Nik about moving from the Ukraine over to the States. I just find it, I mean, did you have to persuade him? Talk to us a little bit about that. How did that come about?
So that's a great question. I've never had anyone ask me that, actually. So I had a weird habit back then. I really wanted someone stateside to work with. At the time I was in San Diego, I think, when I hired Nik, and I don't know why, but whenever I would hire someone on Upwork, I'd always just ask them that. I was like, hey, do you want to come to the United States? I think I was just kind of curious about this. I was like, do you like where you live? Would you rather live here? What do people think of the States? You think we're all a bunch of bumbling idiots that shoot each other constantly? Guns everywhere, American Eagles, and the American flags and bald eagles, and just what's the deal? And talking to him, he was like, yeah, I would actually love to come there. So early on, we had that conversation, and he was like, let's just see how Kolo's journey works out. But it was something that I always kind of like to ask people. I was just curious. And after I saw his level of work and commitment and really passion, that was the biggest thing for me with Nik. I mean, this guy was as passionate as I was about it. He was excited. He would message me super late at night with an idea. This is when I was just paying him for one game. He wasn't an employee. I was like, okay, this is good. So we had that conversation early on, and he got super excited about it, man. And so, so then it was like, okay, well, listen, after this gets to a certain level, I will talk to my attorney and we'll see what it's going to entail. And it was difficult. It was a huge pain in the ass. Since Nik had done all these really cool games like Showtime Boxing, Pirates of the Caribbean, all the stuff we were talking about, because of that, he was able to come over on like a special visa for like really talented people who are, awesome at their industry. And it was actually heavily based on the fact that it would be very difficult to find someone with his skill set in America. And since he is very advanced in all the stuff that he's done, he was accepted in. So that's how he was able to get in. And now he's, Nik's got his green card. So he's only like 3 years away from being a citizen.
Yeah, sure. Interesting. Yeah. So I was wondering if you had to like twist his arm and stuff and like
not at all
keep up in the sort of the bribes and stuff, but
no, not at all, man. It was, he was excited about doing it. Also, he was in Ukraine now, and you guys, know Russia invaded Ukraine, and that was in his hometown. Wow. So all that his apartment that he owned there, when he moved here about 3 months later, a cannonball or some mortar or something went through his balcony and actually busted the floor of the balcony. Yeah. So it was like, he was ready to get out. He was okay with that.
Wow. That's insane.
So it wasn't, I think he had to move his family out here. So that might have had a little bit more discussions than I know about probably, I would assume. But yeah, he was pretty on board.
Yeah, that's cool. So with Nik on board, because when I've hired off Odesk before, I've never lucked out that much. This is why I'm so like jealous and irritated that you found Nik. But we always we had some really great developers, but for us it was the communication. It just although the language was okay and we got stuff done, it just wasn't. I never gelled or vibed with anyone. And I think that's the real big takeaway for me, that you just you hit it off basically.
Dude, you're not going to believe this, dude. I've hired most of our company off of Odesk. Tiana, who writes all our blog posts, I found her on Odesk.
Wow.
I found one of our lead developers, Alex, on Odesk. Zunir, who does all of our back-end licensing, really heavy stuff on Odesk. So I found almost like a large part of our team on Odesk. So stateside too, not just international. So
that just shows how bad I am at hiring, I guess. So thanks for that. Let's move swiftly on.
Well, I'll tell you something real quick. I will tell you something that we do. When we hire someone, sometimes we'll post 5-6 ads and go through candidates, and we're really picky. I have a whole system around that. We'll interview people. A lot of times we'll interview 5-7 people and not hire anyone.
Okay.
And then we're picky. We're really picky. And we make that really clear in our ads. It's like, look, we're a pro organization. We only hire the best. If you don't think you're the best, don't apply. And we kind of demand that when we interview with them. And you can tell they start peeking out. But back then I didn't really even do that, We've figured out how to clean it up even more recently. But back with Nik was a little bit of luck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for you now, where you are with Buildbox, and we'll go into that just secs. But I mean, that's one of the skills that you've really got to nail as a CEO now. You've got to be able to hire effectively. Is it just you that hires? Is it, or does the team get involved? Or do you and Nik?
Dude, I actually don't do anything anymore like that. So yeah,
you don't do any hiring, not anything?
Yeah, and I will post ads sometimes. Usually not really though. We hired a tester recently, and I did post the ad. That was the first one in a while. We recently hired an outreach specialist that for SEO stuff. Tiana handled all of that, the interviewing, everything. That's worked out phenomenally well.
Wow.
So now, and we'll talk about this later, but now mainly I create systems around how we got to. It's like it's a video game. Running a company is a video game. So,
sure.
we're in stage 3 or whatever, right? We're level 3. And so to get to level 3, I had to learn how to do all these things. And part of level 2 was to actually create systems around all of that. Okay, how are we hiring people? How are we getting good people? How can we systemize this? So we use box.com instead of Dropbox. And I have tons of reports and pages, documents, and PDFs for anything. So if we hire a level designer in our game business, I actually create a full PDF report around how we do this. And then the next time we need to do it, I just pass it off to someone.
Got you. So like basics, SOPs and stuff to just
exactly
take. Yeah, got you. So is that your superpower then, do you say? Is that what you're best at? Not what you most enjoy, but do you think you're best at setting up the systems and you think that's led you to where you are now? Do you think that's a major part, or do you think you've got better at it?
I think what I'm probably best at is researching and learning. Okay. I would say that's what it is, because with this stuff, I didn't figure this out. It wasn't a natural thing. I read a lot of books like Scaling Up, Crossing the Chasm, many books that talk specifically about how to do this. The E-Myth Revisited was one of the first ones that I read about systems. All 3 of those books are amazing. And if you haven't read the E-Myth, I'd say start with there. The whole idea is they talk about how you can build systems for everything and how McDonald's and franchises work by hiring and we don't do this, but what McDonald's does is they try to hire the lowest level of education, but their systems are so good that the positions run seamlessly. Wow. And so we're a technology company, so we obviously don't do that. We try to hire really smart people. But I've realized that the systems after reading that book was like, wow, this is really important. And also I was catching myself like trying to run everything, micromanaging everything and obsessing on everything and burning myself out.
Yeah.
And so I was like, my God, I can't get to stage 3 doing that. I'm never going to make it there. The company's not going to make it there. We're all going to burn out. I'm going to be going up behind everyone going, no, write the email like this. No, when you hire him, you got to do this. Let me interview him. Just get him on here, and that's going to kill me. And so I think I've gotten pretty good at learning stuff, whether it's reverse engineering, like game design. Why are Ketchup having success with games? Okay. Oh, okay. We figured it out. Let's see if we can get signed with Ketchup. Oh, okay. That worked out.
Yeah.
Or reading books to say, okay, I can't get to this next level with the company. What are we doing wrong here? And then networking with people. But to be honest with you, with the company side of stuff, I think 90% what I've learned is from books, podcasts, interviews, researching online, that kind of stuff.
And no doubt just doing it as well, living.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Living that.
Some trial and error in there for sure.
Yeah. So what does a day look like for you? You're in your office now. I know the records of something we share a major passion, which is DJing.
Yeah.
Days gone by, I used to DJ, terrorize the local neighborhood with the tunes.
Nice.
Yeah. I used to.
What kind of music mainly?
I'm more like house and techno.
Cool.
But I used to DJ twice a week in the local like pubs and stuff around here. A couple of clubs outside of London. Yeah, it was a big passion of mine. Just sort of as you get older, I think like the late nights and other priorities sort of come in, and it's
totally.
Yeah, it's a tough gig as well to keep going at it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do professionally. I don't know if you noticed, I moved to London in 2001. Yeah. Lived in Pimlico right below Victoria Station. And I had my record box and was going to be a DJ, man. And it didn't work out. I went broke and had to come home on my last $300 is what the plane ticket was back then. They had a special with British Airways. And so it didn't work out. And thank God now, because like you can't, it's great. All the stuff we're talking about, all these systems and scaling, and it works for any kind of, it works for a software as a service company like Buildbox or a game business. It doesn't work for a DJ. You can't scale out being a DJ. You make money when you are working at 4 a.m, and my back hurts now sometimes. I don't want to stand up at 4 a.m. So that worked out. And I was really disappointed because I actually got signed to record labels and Plastic City out of Germany. Yeah, Source of Gravity and the Isle of Man and a few others. And I really thought that was going to take off, and it didn't. And I was very bummed out about it. But I think all in all, it probably worked out.
Kind of panned out okay right now, though, huh?
Yeah, Buildbox wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that.
Then that would be a crying shame, because that's the piece of software that really elevated our studio here and allowed us to build what we've built because I was crap at outsourcing. So let's go into the Buildbox stuff.
I don't know if I answered your question. I can't remember.
I don't even know what the question was, to be honest. But
who cares?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. So I'll tell you what. I want to know what happens when you get into the office. So you're in your. Oh, that was it. You're in your office now.
That's right.
Okay. Who else is there? I know Nick's there, but what does a day for you look like? How does it feel when you're looking around and saying, yeah, this is our office here. This is all right. So talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, I'm going to share something kind of personal because I had the big realization in the past 30 days. So, okay. So last year, this is our office. We're in Sausalito. If you guys don't know, Sausalito is the first exit. You got the Golden Gate Bridge. You got San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge ends in Sausalito, so it's really it's pretty much San Francisco. And beautiful place. Love Sausalito. It's really cool. I live 20 minutes from here, from the office, in a place called Mill Valley. It's the second exit right above San Francisco. And so last year, would come to the office. Nick would come here. Nick lives about an hour away. Takes about an hour drive. So he would come on like Tuesdays and Thursdays, something like that. Zach Rosette, who does a lot of the YouTube videos for us, Director of Customer Success, he was here every day. And then I was here every day. And, man, I worked like during Master Collection, all that. I mean, I was working 60-hour weeks. I mean, just, burning the midnight oil to get this stuff out.
Sure.
And was really burned out by the end of that. And that's why I kind of realized, hey, we need more systems for stuff. And I need to, to take this to the next level. So starting in January, I was like, you know what, guys, I'm not going to come to the office every day. I'm not going to do that anymore. So instead, what I'm going to do is take my kids to school. I wake up at like 6:45, get them ready, breakfast, all that stuff, take them to school. Then I go by and go to a coffee shop. And then I walk around, usually somewhere around here, Sausalito sometimes, Mill Valley, somewhere like up here, right in San Francisco. And then I talk, and I have like the AirPods in.
Okay,
I love these things. I keep those on me all the time. And I put those in, and I walk around. I call all the managers. So I call Natalie. And I get an update on all the billing stuff, make sure everything's cool there. Then I call Nick. We discuss Buildbox 3, Buildbox 2.x. Then I call Zach. Zach deals directly with customers. If any customer is having a problem, or like you were talking about the SDK installs, Zach is the one who talks with them. We're building out a knowledge base now. There's always something going on with him, YouTube videos. So I talk to him, and I talk to everyone in detail. Issue out commands, if anything I think needs to be changed or edited, get reports back, and then they follow up with me. And so instead, because what was happening is I felt like I was getting in the office and then still trying to, I got a really bad micromanaging problem. So I would still want to micromanage everything. So I decided for a month in January, to really step back and let people do their job. And dude, it was amazing. We're getting so much more done. We got 17 people in the company. So it was by empowering everyone to really do their own thing and really focus on what they're doing, then it's been great. So now we hired a new guy too, who's doing analytics named Gonzalo, who's really, really good. And I'm talking with him. So now I'm basically getting reports every day and then major reports every Friday, examining all, making sure I feel like we're on track for everything, giving suggestions for everything, and just doing like a lot of meetings, I guess, which is what a CEO is supposed to be doing, you know?
Sure.
So it's going great, because now I feel like an octopus with 8 arms or even more, instead of trying to run around and be scrambled and work 60 hours a week. And that was burning me out. I think if I would have done that for a little bit longer, I would have been, toast.
Game over. Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of got out your own way a little bit and let everybody, you hired them for their skills and their what's the word I'm looking for? Their abilities. And yet you still, you defaulted to sort of micromanaging and putting your bit on their work. Which I guess
it's a tough transition, when you built the whole company like that, because it started with just me back in the Game Academy days, just me and Natalie.
Yeah.
And, then my mother-in-law was doing support, and that was the company, dude. That was it.
Yeah.
And that grew tremendously. Then we hired Nick. And so for so long, I was the website developer, wrote all the copy, did all the videos, all the promotional stuff, and everything but the coding, right? And so then you start branching out, and you have such a tendency to go back and still want to do that. So taking that month off, when I say taking a month off, my wife is laughing. She's like, you can't tell anyone that you really have taken off, because what you do is you do those meetings in the morning, you come back, then we go to lunch, and like, you're like, okay, let me check on everything. All right. So but that's what I'm doing, so I'm still working constantly, but I'm more receiving feedback and reports and guiding. And that has worked out extremely well.
Do you think that that's helped you both personally and made the company better?
Exactly. Definitely has. Yeah. I've already seen a dramatic change. We're just literally getting more done.
Yeah.
Because there's
Trey's
less
left.
Micromanagement.
Yeah. Trey's out of the way. We can all get on with stuff now.
And what I've done a lot of times, someone would come back and say, well, what about this? And I was like, that's you. You tell me,
That's right.
If in the reports, it looks like things aren't going great, then we'll definitely chime in there. So
that's awesome, dude. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's worked really, really well.
So let's move on to Buildbox a little bit. Of the, what should we say? More of the vision side of it. While we're talking about Buildbox, I know the origin started with Jump Pack, where you used to have your sliders in the game, and you needed to fix the gravity yourself and move around with the settings, and that progressed that you could tell Nick, this is what I want. And then you moved into Project Zero, then Project Mayhem, then Project Mayhem 2 maybe. I wasn't on those ones. And then first version of Buildbox, which we jumped on. So for people who don't know what Buildbox is, do the sort of elevator pitch, kind of brief overview of Buildbox for us.
Yeah, so like Kevin said, for anyone that doesn't know the origin story, the super fast 2-second version, we were making a game called Jump Pack, and I just felt like the controls weren't right. Like, I felt like this character was too floaty when he was jumping. And Jump Pack, if you have never seen the game, it's kind of like Doodle Jump, right? It was kind of based on that gameplay. And I felt like this character just was too floaty. Just the gravity wasn't right. I couldn't really nail down. So I had Nick, our main developer, CTO now at Buildbox, create sliders. When I hit the pause button, I could slide and change the force of the jump, the gravity, just like 3 or 4 basic things. And using that, I really nailed down specifically how the game felt. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I wish I could do this for all the games. And we had a couple other automation type things like that Nick built in, including a little level editor for a game we had. And so that we started seeing that this was kind of a need. So we got into the game builder space, and what's funny is Project Zero was based originally on the Jump Pack code, on that actual slider system that he built for that. It was it was actually very closely based on that. And then Project Zero 2, all that stuff. And then with Buildbox, it was like, okay, we need to branch out and actually create an engine, because at that time, with the early game builders, all it was doing was taking a source code and changing variables. Actually, literally was plist files, if anyone knows how coding stuff works. That's like an XML file that would have like gravity and all this stuff. And then in the software, you would change it and it would edit that. And so we were like, okay, we need to really create an engine around this. So we Frankensteined using a lot of tools available out there, this cool engine for Buildbox, which has been rewritten about 1,000 times. Our recent version, Buildbox 2.3, we completely rewrote the framework. Now I think all of original Buildbox is gone. One of the last things, Kevin, when you drag an image into Buildbox, it takes a long time to process it. And this is because we were still using the same drag and drop image code from Project Zero.
Right.
It's just one of those things that just lasted. It worked. It was no problem. It worked on Mac and PC. It exported perfectly for everything. So we just kept doing it. And so you would grab a frame of like 10 animation PNG sequences or PNG files, and you drop it in, and it would take like 5 seconds to load. Now it takes like half a second. It's just like, boom, immediately throws in there. So, so we decided to really build a real engine around this, and that was Buildbox. And the goal was very simple. I wanted to make a game. I love this slider approach with some of our software. And I went and tried some of our competitors, which I don't really like. My goal for Buildbox is unity and to take really on the indie scene. It's not to necessarily, when I say competitors, the game builder space was never really what I consider competitors. But anyway, I tried some of those other game builders and I couldn't make anything with it. And I was like, I'm pretty capable. It's not like, I've actually coded C++ a little bit. Like I know what includes are and what calls are and some of this stuff. I'm not like a genius. I really couldn't code anything for you if you held a gun to my head, but I understand how it works. And so the fact that I could not actually build a game with some of our other game building software competitors out there, I was like, wow, this is really amazing. We need to focus on this. So the step one was, hey, let's just make the easiest game creation software, period. That was Buildbox 1. Buildbox 2 was, okay, so Color Switch hit number 1. It was made with our software. They had to leave because it couldn't do, the publisher wanted to do things we couldn't do. So now we have to branch out. We have to have game modes, multiple worlds, all this stuff. That's what we did with Buildbox 2.
Yeah.
Color Switch was a big driving force behind the changes we made in Buildbox 2. And then with Buildbox 3, which will be coming out this summer, it was, okay, now it's time to really come out as a professional, super, ultra professional, make any type of game, 3D, 2D, anything you can imagine with the software. And that's what we're working on now. So
I mean, that to me is super exciting. I've got to be honest. I mean, we've been customers from the very beginning.
Nice.
It's what got us to where we are now. I certainly tried some of your competitors, or competitors in speech marks, for the podcast. But yeah, I'll just come out and say I tried Game Salad and I couldn't get it working. I couldn't get a thing to move around the screen, and it was really frustrating because, like you, I can read code. I can't type it, but I can read it. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, I'm not a complete idiot here. Why is this so difficult for me? And then
I was shocked.
It was really funny because timing was absolutely second to none on this, because we just shut down. I'd had enough of doing the outsourcing. I personally was hating it, but I wanted to build games, which led me onto the Game Salads, which is basically what I tried. And then you launched Buildbox, and it's just like, I can't believe this. This is it. We're in. And we haven't looked back since. So for us, the evolution with Buildbox has grown with us, which I think is, it's just the time.
That was the goal, because here's the thing, Kevin, if we would have came out with Buildbox 3 back in 2015, it would have not worked with our market, because we already had a market with Game Academy. We already had, a customer base. 7,000 people bought our products at Game Academy. And for people listening, before Buildbox, Buildbox was actually sold on Game Academy. It's gameacademy.com. And we sold courses on game development. After I got about 20 million downloads, I was blogging about it. People were asking about, how did you do this? We started building out all sorts of courses on game design and marketing games and all this kind of stuff, and selling it on Game Academy. And that's where it started. And so if we would have came out with Buildbox 3, it would have been too complicated. We had to slowly work with our audience, and which worked out perfectly because it would have been too expensive. We would have gone bankrupt coming out with trying to build, Buildbox 3. It took us many years to do it. So yeah, it all really worked out. And, and we can talk about the design process a little bit, but it's interesting because Nik, he obviously knows code very well. He coded the whole first version, all that stuff. So he'll come up with these ideas that are great, but he has to explain it to me 1,000 times for me to really get it. And then I take that, and then I'm like, okay, that's maybe what one of the competitors would do. Let's instead try to figure out how to make this so I can understand it, and Kevin can understand it, and our customers can understand it. And which is kind of like the Apple approach a little bit, you know?
Sure.
We dumb it down so it's still very effective. And maybe every once in a while we cut a feature here and there. With Buildbox 3, we're actually going to have JavaScript. So for the coders out there, we want to finally open the doors for them as well, which will not be required. So they can actually never hit an obstacle. But as you know, with Buildbox 2 specifically, it's easier to use. Yeah, we're going to cut some features, right? You're not going to be able to, make a Clash of Clans with it, but no one's making that anyway,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
At our level. And make it easy. And that's always been the focus. And that will always be the focus, is to make the software like a game. When you're creating games, it's like playing a game. You're actually playing with it to create stuff. And that's always been the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think your approach to that is amazing, because it really is easy to use. And I know you've referred to it in the past as it's got to pass the trade test. And I think you're doing yourself a little bit of disservice, but the actual ethos behind that is spot on, because if you find it confusing, then chances are that most of your customers will. And that's no disrespect to anybody here, but that I think that's been the key to making it a really, really successful bit of kit.
Yeah, and and I think even Buildbox 2, if you read the forum, there's some people who are getting confused by it. Like, we're already hitting a pretty high level of the software. It's really interesting when you're in our position trying to create a piece of software for everyone. You have some people think it's too complicated already. You got some people who are more technically inclined going, hey, this is not complicated enough. So the way we're going to solve this is pretty genius with Buildbox 3. So right now, Buildbox 2, you can click on a character or an object, and you have these components, and you can add a component. That might be a health, might be damage, it might be wake up, or some sort of component that will affect that character. Well, in Buildbox 3, we'll have the same type of situation like that, and it's going to be pretty easy for novice users. But if you want to, there'll be an edit button, and that's where you can actually see nodes, and you can actually start like seeing 2D nodes and dragging lines to it. We'll have videos to show you guys later, but that would be for like my level and your level, Kevin, right? Guys who are below us on the knowledge of game development, they won't ever even have to touch that, and you'll still be able to create stuff just like you do in Buildbox 2. So you will never have to even use nodes, and that's something me and Nick agreed on from the beginning we're going to work on. Now then, Kevin, for the guys who are level up from us, they can double click the nodes. It's like I told Nick when I was coming up with this, it's like Inception, okay? All right. So we got people who go into the first dream, and those are the people who are just kind of new to game development, and they just want to be able to use those sliders. Going back to sliders, man. Yeah. They just want to slide the jump, make it a little bit more or less. Then we go in one level, boom, it's nodes, all right? Now we're in that second dream. Things are getting a little crazy in here, right? Then we're doing the nodes and all that. Now, for the third one, if you double click a node, you'll actually see the code. So we're coding all of these nodes, even some of the past components like wake up and stuff. We're recoding that in JavaScript. So you can double click it and then see the code behind that we wrote. So then you can edit that. You can copy it, make a whole new version of it. And again, it's like Inception. That would be the third one. And that's going to be a game changer, I think, because I think that'll solve a lot of the problems with people saying, hey, it's too easy, it's too complicated. Well, now there's 3 levels. It's only as complicated as if you keep going into the dreams.
Yeah, I think for someone in your position, it's a really hard to please everyone, isn't it? It's just, you just can't. Yeah. And how much is based from what you guys get feedback from, from the likes of the forums or support tickets? Is there like a central pool where you, every couple of weeks, you pull it all into a hat and see if there's any sort of themes coming up there? Who decides on the features, and how does that path work?
Yeah, so me and Nick are the ones who decide all that stuff. Okay. And we're constantly consuming. I read support every day. I read our forums every day. I read every blog post that comes by, constantly consuming. I'm in all the major like Buildbox Facebook groups, and that's something I plan on always doing. I've got to have a finger on the pulse of what people are saying about our software. I search it on Twitter, so I see pretty much everything. Nick doesn't. He's in code, and I'm relaying that to him. Then Andy Tarkinson leads our development team, and he also is hand in hand works with Zach, who does director of customer success, and Sean, who does support when people email in. They have a meeting every single morning to discuss all this stuff. So we have like this web where we're always getting all the feedback from the customers. If something comes up multiple times, then we are made very aware of that. And everyone is heavily involved and passionate in listening to that stuff. Now, so for example, people are really wanting game analytics right now, SDK. So we're building a whole entire thing around this. We're going to actually include it natively into the software in the future because of this. And that's 100% a customer request. Nice. So we do a lot of customer request stuff. But some things customers aren't going to probably think of, like the node system, right? We never had a request for that. So it's this balance of kind of like, I'm sure you've heard Steve Jobs talking about this, how they don't actually do what customers say. We are in a different position because we're creating a service for customers, right? Sure. We're not creating a product like the iPhone. But there is things that I don't think customers are going to know they want until they see it and then go, oh my God, we had to have this, So we answer your question. If we see a huge need, we put it in there for sure, 100%. Typically, we're going to solve their problems in a different way than they might think of. There's a lot of times I see requests on our forum and our support online that I know if we did that, it would just absolutely never work, because when we're looking at it, we're not involved in making a game right at that second, and we need this little tweak right now to finish this game the way we think we need it. We're doing this bird's eye approach where we're 300 foot in the air looking at thousands of people who are making tens of thousands of games and trying to solve hundreds of thousands of different problems. And so when you're looking at it like that, solutions can't be to fix Todd, who is sitting right now in a cafe in India trying to finish up this one level in this game. It's got to be broad fixes that open up the software in new and unique ways that solve problems for many people. So, so we do listen to feedback, but we might not always solve it in the way that people think we should because we have a lot of people to look after.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer. And I think that was well worth asking that question because I know there's a lot of emotion that can go around when people don't feel like they're being listened to. And I think you guys do, I think you guys do a great job. It's so funny when anything like that comes up. I just say, oh my God, that must be a nightmare for these guys, how to please everyone. But you're right. You need to make that decision. And I think, for the most part, you do an excellent job there. Now,
well, thanks. And hey, listen, and just to be clear, I mean, we have really passionate people, and sometimes people get mad. Sometimes people lose their temper and they get mad. And sure, sometimes, you work on something a long time and your first reaction might be like, but then you remember these people love what we're doing so much. They just want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
They just want it to be right. And then, we sit back and we listen and usually, 9 times out of 10, it's like, hey, they got a damn good point. How can we fix this for them? Maybe it's not going to be the way they want, but how can we fix it? But yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of pressure when you have a lot of people wanting something done a specific way, but I think we've juggled it fairly well, and our customers have been happy, so that's good.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's all good. There's been a few little fires, I'm sure you'll know more than me, but I think for the most part, I think I'm so excited for Buildbox 3. I can't be. I'm ridiculously excited for it. I have to tap you up and get on the beta for that, or the alpha, or wherever we are right now.
Yeah, sure. We got Alpha 2 is going to be my version, and with my dumb it down stuff, and it's nearing completion and it's looking really, really good.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I'm so excited because it's funny because you said, you're heading more towards the indie market side of things. And I feel for us, although we still love mobile, I feel that's our step for us right now. I want to attack that market a little bit, and not because I've fallen out of love with anything. It's just the fact that I just want to do a little bit of a change now. And I need the tools to do it. And this Buildbox 3, I'm sure is going to fulfill that need for us. And I'm super excited. We've been watching all the videos, and it's just like, oh man, alive! I get so ridiculously excited. I've got to turn them off. It's it's too much for me. I can't deal with it. So listen, man, I don't know how long we've been talking. I really wanted to touch on some on your game business. I mean, we've spoke about Buildbox. I don't know how you are for time. Are we good?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, cool. So apart from running a super successful game building software company, you guys also have an astonishingly successful game business. Can you talk to us about that? How it's you and Nick that run that, from my understanding. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that time is divvied up and some of the stuff that you release for people who might not know?
Yeah. So, the first game that we released, so there's this kind of like post Buildbox era and pre Buildbox era. So pre Buildbox era, we did Jump Pack, Maze Plus, Kolo's Journey, Monster Magic, and all those games were either featured by Apple or, did really well. Jump Pack is an odd game because it was in the top 25 paid chart, the top 50 grossing chart, and the top 10 free chart. So it was on all three charts. Now, the fact when it was top 50 grossing, it made $3,000 that day. And now, if you were top 50 grossing, I think you'd make 100,000 or something. Yeah, sure. $1 billion. So that shows how long ago that was. That was 2011. And then, so by the time Buildbox came out, I think we had like 15 million downloads, something like that. 13, I can't really remember, something like that. And then the first game made with Buildbox ever was Phases. And when I finished this game, I made it in 2 weeks with an alpha version of Buildbox. And I wanted to release it. And I released it on my own, and it bombed. Okay. And it didn't get any feature, nothing. So I didn't even take the game down. And I tried to make this the hardest game ever made. That was my pitch. And it was extremely hard. All right, if you guys have played Phases, there was no checkpoints in Phases. It was the only way to beat it was to never die and get through the whole entire game.
Wow.
And you should definitely check this out. Just type in Phases iOS and you can see it. Now people are speed running this game. There's a speed run community and they're like beating each other's score. Yeah, and all this stuff, which is really cool. So that was the first game, and I sent it to Ketchup. Now Ketchup had maybe published one other game. Like they were not really a publisher yet, but they had The Line in the App Store, which looks similar to this game. They had a Piano Tiles game, I think, at that time. And I was like, you know what? These guys are crushing it. Maybe they'll release my game. And so I emailed them and they said, yeah, we are doing publishing. We like your game, but it's way too hard. Can you put in checkpoints? But there weren't checkpoints in Buildbox. So I had Nick like at the last minute put in checkpoints. And then they liked the game. We figured it out, released it. It hit top 25, got, I think, 5-6 million downloads now, did really well.
Wow.
And so then that built a good relationship with Ketchup. And we've released, I think, 6 games with them. We have 10 contracts, 4 more games coming out with them. And, honestly, I think that's been probably of the 40 million downloads or something like that, some number around there have been with them. So we've released a lot of games with them. I know at one point we have more contracts with them than any other developer. So I'm not sure if that's still true, but
that's awesome.
We've had a great relationship with them.
That's awesome. I mean, just to like cut you off mid-flow there.
Sure.
What I love about that is the pitch. Because we get asked all the time about like how do we pitch these publishers, right? And I'll let you tell them if you want to give us the 30-second version, because that's all it's going to take.
Really simple. So I will tell you guys a huge secret. I actually did an interview yesterday. I don't do a lot of interviews, but happened to have one yesterday, and I told them the same thing. So I will tell you how you can get every game you ever make signed to Ketchup or to Voodoo or to anyone else. And it's really simple. Here's how to do it. All right. Drum roll.
I'll put that in. I'll put that in afterwards.
Yeah. There you go. Drum roll. Here we go. And all you do, it's really not hard. All you do is simply make a game that's better than any game you've seen them release. If you can do that, if you can look at it, honestly go, you know what? And listen, go look at Blue Edge. Blue Edge wasn't their most successful game, but go look at that game and you can honestly say, you know what? I think this is one of the most beautiful games. And I could say it because I didn't make it, that Ketchup has ever released. Nick made all the graphics for that. If you want to see his 3D skill, type in Blue Edge, Ketchup, and you can check it out. And that's always been our goal. We look at it and we go, okay, is this better than the recent games that they're having success with? Not as good. Is it better? And if you have that attitude, and you need that attitude, if you're going to go forward and approach these guys, these really big publishers out there like Fortify and Voodoo and Ketchup, then Gameloft, any of them, then Chilingo, you're going to need to create at a very high level. So if you're asking yourself, how do I get signed with Ketchup? I don't know if I can, then you're probably just not ready yet. You probably need to really work on that whole polishing thing, which is the most difficult part of game development that no one really talks about.
No, well, do you want to talk about it now? I mean, we've done a few workshops inside the Academy about polishing, but just before, I remember we were just about to talk about this before we hit record, and I've just remembered it. It's about the publishing side of things and how I think that you're responsible with Buildbox in a good way for making everybody think that they have a right to get published. And that kind of leads us on to the polishing a little bit, because I think what people forget is that with all your years of experience and all your teachings and what you can learn on those forums, it's almost normalized it. And if you go to most other like forums online that are dedicated to game development, no one really talks about this stuff. And yet the stuff from the Buildbox crew, it's just like, yeah, just go to a publisher. And it's like you talk to most other game devs, it's really alien to them. But I think that's good and bad at the same time, because I think a lot of the problem is that people aren't ready for a publisher. The games are just not good enough, and they're not polished enough. Now, as I just said, we do a fair bit of polished stuff in the Academy. It's really hard to explain. I always say like it's just being super picky, and making sure everything's lined up in like a real umbrella type of sweeping comment. But if you got any, like, I mean, you always phrase things better than what I can. Have you got any, like, anything like more sort of fancy to explain it? Certainly on audio, to sum up polish.
Yeah, here's the thing: when you're making a game and you're playing your game, and you see these little things that you think, oh, that can probably slip by. Anytime you see that little tiny doubt, that's not slipping by.
Yeah.
They're going to notice immediately.
Yeah.
And then they're going to notice the stuff you don't see. They're going to absolutely tear your game apart in a way that people do not understand, because they're playing at such a pro level that, I mean, it's like at this point, mobile is huge. We're talking about companies that have the biggest downloads in the App Store. And we're talking about an industry that's like as big as music and movies. I mean, we're talking about, I think some people, for some reason, because it's gaming or something, don't really understand that. We're talking about really big companies at this point. And you wouldn't send a really shitty demo to Arista Records.
No, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
And expect them to, just be like, you know what, these guys, yeah, of course the bass was way too low, the drums are too loud, and the vocals aren't that great, but let's go ahead and sign this band. Like, you wouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
And I think because game development is new, mobile game development, that maybe some people don't quite get that. But yeah, I had a program called Publisher Elite, as you know. And with Buildbox, things got too busy, so I decided to not do that anymore. But it was a great program. I worked with a lot of people, and we had a lot of big games signed. And I was really surprised at how many people thought their game was ready. When I play it for 1 second, I'm like, I just got to ask, did you not see how these two graphics don't line up? Did you not notice that his foot's going in the wall? And they were like, yeah, I mean, it's like just a little bit. It's like there is no little bit. There is zero room for anything at that level. And that's, and it can be frustrating as an instructor, right? Because and I think the way you said it, actually, Kevin, is perfect. I mean, it's just got to be extremely picky to the point of being nearly psychotic.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, man, maybe we have, the guys who have success have a different eye. Yeah. Maybe we see things they don't. And I thought that. And then after working with people, I realized I don't think that's really the case. I think what happens is people think that bad. Oh, they probably won't even notice that.
Right.
I know that these two objects aren't lined up, but the way I did the graphics, it's really difficult. And I can't quite get it, because when the scenes, they go from scene 4 to 8, it's only when you go from 4 to 8 and it's randomized. If you go 4 to 6, 4 to 7, it's fine. But when you go 4 to 8, the way those graphics are, it overlaps on top of it. That's a specific example that happened. And the guy knew about it. And I was like, look, dude, like, no, like, you got to be militant about this stuff.
That's it. It's so funny because when we see games, we'll open it up. And I'll go like, what's that? Like, immediately it'd be like, there'd be like the score's slightly off, or like too low, not lined up, or there's a background that doesn't line up perfectly. It's just like, what are you doing? Yeah. And it's like, it's so obvious to us. And it's just like, we tell people and they just think, what? It doesn't even, not to
animations are a big one.
Not to
animations
everyone.
are a big one.
Yeah.
And what I'll hear, like menu animations, and I'll be like, dude, why? Like, you have all the buttons coming up at the same time, but this start button comes up a little bit like slower, weirder or something. They'll be like, yeah, I really don't know how to do animations that well. And I'm having a hard time fixing that. And the interesting thing with that issue is something that we saw early on with Buildbox. When you create the only development platform that lets anyone create a video game, and then the founders of that platform are showing people how they got their games published, then what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have a lot of Buildbox users going to publishers, which you already noted, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is, and I've talked with Ketchup and Fortify and all these guys about this, is then you got to be careful, or you're going to hurt the brand of publishers, because they're going to get a lot more low quality content, because for the first time, someone that doesn't know how to use an animation curve can actually finish a video game.
Yeah.
And that's been really challenging for us, to try to coach people into, hey, look, there's still got to be a level of professionalism here if you are going to try to build a career out of this. And that's why training's been really, really important with our company, whether it's, not just the high end training like Publisher Elite, but we're constantly releasing articles talking about how to do this, how to polish, how to do all this stuff, making videos on YouTube like every other day. And I think that stuff's really important because people don't understand the level of commitment and perfection that you have to have in order to be successful with this. And when you create a tool that allows anyone to make a game, you really got to drive that home, or you're going to have a lot of low quality stuff out there. And we don't want to do that,
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think the content you put out is awesome. It's funny because we've got quite a few ex-Publisher Elite members in the academy, and the stuff that they put out is just like, you're so close, and it's really great to see. We all love to look at amazing looking games, and you can see the difference immediately from, and again, no disrespect, but you can see the difference from a newbie to someone who's had that coaching to say, right, this stuff does matter, and if you want to get a publishing deal, it's so funny as well. One of the things, I don't know where I heard it. It was where you were talking about, don't be Billy or Sam who always sends that rubbish game to the publisher. Don't be that guy. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap where, if you're gonna strike up a relationship with these big publishers, you've got to put your best foot forward from the very beginning.
Oh, hey, you don't want them going, oh, damn it, is that Kevin again? Jesus. Hey, come over here. Come over. Yeah, Kevin sent another one.
That's it.
Another thing, look at this piece of shit Kevin sent.
The sad thing is that's what normally happens, but there we go. That's another story.
Hey, look, human, they know, like, if someone's sending games a lot, they definitely know who that person is, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, sure.
And Kevin, when you send, these guys games, they're excited. Oh, we got another game from Kevin, and that's what you want.
That is what you want, isn't it? And that really comes back to like building that. You don't do business with companies; you do business with people. And there's people on the other end of that email address, and I think that's often forgotten. Where you're talking to the guy. You got to be. Well, it's so funny because we get some emails just like, we want you to publish our game and make it a hit. And that's it. And they don't, there's barely a link and certainly never a video. And you just think, what are you doing? You might have a good game, but you're never going to get seen. Anyways, totally.
When you send an email to Voodoo, for example, you are getting like some dude who sits there and looks at games.
That's right.
I love that analogy because it's a person who has feelings and emotions and comments. And and it's important to remember that.
All right, dude. So that, I don't know where we got up to. I did have some sort of structure at some point. I wanted to talk a little bit. I don't know how we are for time. I wanted to, we're really big on the way that we build our games, and we kind of have a loose structure, although it's totally organic. We do have a loose process of what we do. And I was super curious about how it's day one, minute one. And you're gonna, for the next 2 months or whatever, you've got a block and you're building a game. You've got time to build a game or whatever. How does that first minute day look for you in coming up with a game? Or does it start way before that? Or tell us a little bit about how you go about starting that process of building your next game.
Gotcha. So, the two main guys in the game company are me and Nick, right? So I'll tell you both of our process because it's a little bit different. So for me, I play a lot of games. I play every major game that pops up in the App Store on the free charts, like games that Buildbox would make or Catch App and Voodoo would release and stuff like that, Fortify. So I play all these games, and then sometimes I see something where I'm like, damn, that is cool. Like my game Wall Switch, which unfortunately didn't do well. And I can't really get into that, but it's still one of my favorite games I've ever made. I liked it better than Phases, I think. I don't know. I like the Phases, but Wall Switch, I think given the right circumstances, that game could have been a hit. Maybe it came out a little too late or whatnot. But anyway, so Wall Switch was from playing games where you were bouncing off the walls, right?
Yep.
And so that inspiration, I knew I wanted to do something based on that game mechanic. I'd seen a couple games. Boombit made a game with a parrot that was a little bit similar.
Yeah.
Then you had Don't Touch the Spikes, but no one had done it as an adventure. And that was my goal, was that. So sometimes I'll start with a basic concept. Speaking of concept, Nik's style, I think, is more interesting to talk about. Mine's a little bit boring. It's like I just kind of see something, I remember it, and then I start trying to recreate it in Buildbox and think about how I can model and improve it, turn it on its head a little bit, make it more interesting.
Sure.
Nik's way is a little bit more interesting to me. So back in the day, before the company got bigger and we were all really busy, we had Concept Fridays where every Friday Nik could work on whatever he wanted to do. And I would love to bring this back. And after Buildbox 3, when Nik's more in a managerial role instead of a coding role, I would love to bring this back, because that's one thing I love about Nik is how inventive he is. And on Concept Fridays, he would come up with these crazy ideas. I'll tell you one. This is so cool. Awesome. So he took an MOV video. He got in Blender 3D software and made a scene of a video just scrolling left to right in a dungeon. That's all it was. It was a video of a dungeon he built in 3D, and the video shows it for the people on audio. The video just shows moving left and right through this dungeon. Imagine the background of a 2D game, but really detailed. So one of his concepts was, what if we put this video and the video fast forwards or rewinds, moves backwards or forwards based on the character's movement. So you have a video and the character, as soon as you move, the video starts playing. If you go backwards, the video plays backwards in the same exact speed the character moves. So this way you could have these insanely detailed backgrounds that all it is the character is on time code of the video playing. And you could have these just super crazy detailed backgrounds without actually any processing power or any of that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he just came up with these really crazy concepts like that and then showed me every week. And a lot of stuff was born from that. A lot of the cloning type stuff we did with Buildbox was born from that. And he still does that. Now we don't have Concept Fridays because we're too busy and we have deadlines. But he still, Nik works, I think, 7 days a week. But a lot of times it's like he's just working on weird stuff like that. It's not like technically... It's not like a to-do list or anything. He's just like, he just loves tinkering and exploring that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of his ideas will be like, he's just playing around in Blender on a Saturday at 1 a.m. and we're pretty much Skyping all the time. Last night we were Skyping at 12:30 in the morning. And, he'll send something over. What do you think of this? I'm like, oh, dude, that's so cool, So that I like his because it's just this kind of playing around attitude, which he always has in business. But with me, it's more when I play a video game, I get inspired by something and I do the classic, hey, how can I take this but improve it, make it more unique, maybe remix it. Like the game Phases I made was really just trying to figure out presets for the original Buildbox and playing with the jumping one and accidentally making the jump 100% when it bounced. So it just kept going all the way back to the original position on a bounce. And Phases, if you haven't played that game, the character just bounces forever. And then it was like, how can I build a game out of this? I got inspired by this game, Electronic Super Joy. I really like the colors in that game. It's an indie game.
That game.
And yeah. And so look like it, but when you go see that game, you're like, okay, I see how he got the flow from this. I was also playing Thomas Was Alone. That's where I got the idea for the shadows.
For the light.
So, yeah. And so, what is it called?
Thomas Was Alone.
Thomas Was Alone.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so then, yeah, man. So I just get inspired from stuff like that. Right now, I was playing Playdead's Inside. The guys that made Limbo made the game Inside. Have you played it?
Yeah, well, funny enough, we spoke about this a little while ago, a couple of weeks back. We sat down, we took a day out of doing stuff, and we went on YouTube and watched the whole video game from a what they call it, Let's Play type thing. Had a really good narrator or YouTuber or whatever you want to call them, talking through what he was doing, really entertaining. And that's one of our secret weapons here. I watch a lot of stuff. I don't play I don't play a huge amount. I like to go and watch because you can experience stuff differently, and you miss stuff when you play because all your concentration is on the character.
Yeah.
But you get more immersed if you watch stuff. So we kind of do a lot of that. So yeah, Inside, oh my God, incredible game.
Yeah. So what drives me crazy about Inside is the look of this game. And I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's very minimal, but it's like really, really beautiful. And so I started Googling around. I was like, what kind of filter did they create? And so they did some kind of anti-aliasing filter. It's really interesting. I've never heard of this before. They didn't invent it, but they ported it and released the code and open sourced it for Unity. And what it does is it keeps in mind the previous frame at all times, like almost like screen snapshots the whole screen, right? Takes like an image. And then when you move and everything changes on the screen, it gets data from that to do anti-aliasing, which gives it all this blurry look. And that's why you have this real mysterious look in the game. And so I told Nick, I was like, look, we got to have that in Buildbox. Listen, right now we're just focused on Buildbox 3. We're focused on coding and stuff. I was like, but this has got to look better. It's got to be when people make a game with the software that they go, oh, damn, it's got to be a Buildbox game. It just looks too good. Like this, definitely didn't come from Unity or even Unreal. To me is too glossy. Like something's fake about Unreal's engine to me.
Let me just totally interrupt you there. So do you want people to say, oh, that game was made in Buildbox? Is that a thing for you? Do you? Because it always cracks me up when people say, oh, it looks like a Buildbox game. And I thought, well, it's the sort of game that a lot of people make in Buildbox, but it could be made in anything. And I always thought that had almost a negative connotation to it. Not because it's a bad thing.
It depends on why they say it, right? Okay, yeah. If they say it because it's a very simple game, then right now I'm okay with that. Okay, because that's what's dominating the App Store.
Yeah, sure.
Still to this day, go to the free game charts. You're going to see a bunch of looks like Buildbox games. I'm doing my fingers in quotes, right? And what's interesting? A year ago, I didn't like that. Because I was like, no, we're building an engine here and we want this to go forward and do a lot of different things. But then I realized, those games are dominating the store. We've made more of those games than anyone. And it's why our customers have had a lot of success and put us on the map. So I'm going to embrace it for now. But that's step one. That's stage 2 or whatever, right? That's not the end goal for me. So my goal in the future is out of the box to have filters in Buildbox 3. Where you click a button and it looks like the game Limbo, really dark and mysterious like that with a grainy 1940s film on top.
Yeah.
Then you click another button and it does like this cool AI stuff where everything's kind of smoky. And then there's like specific filters and you can edit those filters. And it has a very unique indie look right out of the box that just works for people. So I would like in the future, someone's on Steam and they download a game and go, yeah, I'm thinking this is probably Buildbox because it just has that really refined, unique look.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would like that. Yeah. Because like right now I can look at a game, I can tell it's Unreal. And I'm sure most people don't, but I can tell that because they have these default glossy settings that drive me crazy. I've mentioned this to so many people and everyone's like, dude, Unreal looks great, but there's something plasticky about Unreal.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Shiny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too damn shiny by default. Now, the games that are done really well in Unreal do not look like that. I think The Witcher actually is, maybe they have their own engine. God, that game looks great, though. That one doesn't look shiny. But anyways, man, so yeah, I would like, depending on the circumstance, but yeah, I don't have a problem with associations like that.
Interesting. So listen, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. I could talk all day, but I'm super conscious of your time, and you've been absolutely
good. Yeah, if you got anything, last things, we can wrap it up.
There's a few things I wanted to cover. Well, not really. It's more to do with a personal question for you, where what will define success for you? And I know it's a really difficult one, and there's all sorts of different how should we say? There's like different ways you could spin it for like personal and life and real sort of fancy pantsy type stuff. But for the business of Buildbox and your game business, what if there is one will be a point where you can sort of look back when you're playing one of the hit games built by Buildbox 7. And you go, you know what, we've done all right here. This is what I set out to do. How would that look like?
Yeah. So The end goal for me is to create the best product. That's the end goal. And it's interesting because when you talk about what's the best product, then really you have two things. There's no issues with the product. There's no bugs and stuff like that, but that's only half of it. The other half's the features, right? Mm-hmm. And this is such a balancing act, and it's something we struggle with daily. We have a limited number of resources. We've turned down tons of funding from really big people because we happen to have early growth without funding. But it does limit some of the resources. Now we have a lot more than we used to, but we have to make decisions. Are we going to put in new features? Or are we going to polish? Right? Just like the game stuff. And that's this constant battle in what is creating the best product. So my goal is both, right? And that's when I feel like we have made it, when we have everything I want in the software, which means you can really make literally everything and it looks phenomenal and anyone can do it. And if we reach that goal, no one's done that, right? And I think we're on the way to that goal. And when we do that, that's it. I mean, so to answer your question, it's to create the best product. That's when I'll know that we've made it the best option out there for professional people, for new people, for everything, and really change the way that people develop games. And that's what we're set out to do. And we're really passionate about that. And I think we're going to definitely do it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I have no doubt you will. And I think your passion comes through today. And that's why I love it. And that's why I think you're building an amazing product, because you can just feel how much you geek out with this stuff. And we do as well. We just like completely geeked out, and I think it shows in your products. And it shows in anything you do, whether you're in the game business or whatever you're doing. It's a real cliche one that gets bounded around so many times, but you really do have to love what you do. And I think the product shows. I mean,
it's like we reinvest everything in the company. So it's not about money. That's not going to really bring you that excitement. I mean, honestly, I want Buildbox to be what everyone uses to make a game. That's because it's the best product out there and it's the fastest, and people who are using Unity or like with 3.0, 4.0 and beyond are like, oh my God, I can either spend a year and a half and hire all these people, or we can build this in 3 weeks with Buildbox and get the same results. And that's the big one, because right now, I'm very honest and upfront about the limitations, but we removed those limitations, which every single release, we're getting closer and closer to those being gone. Then what happens then? And that's what I want to see, man. That's what I want to happen. What happens then? If there's no limitations yet, we still have all of this speed and agility, then, does it change the way people make games? And I think we can. And so that's the goal. It's the most important thing to me.
I'm so excited for Buildbox 3. You got to come off this. You got to get back to work and whip Nik a little bit. And get that moving.
Got to get to that goal.
That's right. That's right. Okay, dude. I'm gonna start to wrap that up now. You've been absolutely way more generous than I could ever expect. So I can't thank you.
That's great. I enjoyed it.
Can't thank you enough. So listen, you've got to let us know how we can get in touch with you and how we can thank you for being so generous again with your time. Where's the best place that we can catch up with you, learn more about Buildbox and all that good stuff?
Yeah, man. Buildbox.com for really everything. I'm not active much on social media. That's a whole nother conversation, but a few months ago, I just realized that it just seems like a lot of bullshit.
It's a huge amount of bullshit. Let's be honest.
And I caught myself like posting and then wanting to send me likes. I was like, who cares, man? Like, this is not constructive, Yeah. So, I'm not really active on any of that stuff too much, except for Twitter. Sometimes twitter.com/Trey Smith is probably where I'm the most active. But buildbox.com for sure to see what we got going on with the company, and that's where I am mostly.
Awesome. So we'll link all that up below anyway. So click the buttons down below or head over to the show page to get all the links. And make sure you head over to buildbox.com. And Trey, I don't think you mentioned this. This will be coming out in the next, I don't know, we'll make sure it's around the right time for you. But Am I wrong, or is there not a free trial coming of Buildbox imminently?
Yeah, man, we are in the process of testing that now at the time of this recording. And we're going to test it just on like 10% of our traffic a little bit to make sure that nothing breaks and all this. But we're going to have multiple price points for Buildbox we're going to test. Now, to be totally upfront, we are going to test a free version. If something happens, I can't promise it's going to be there forever. We obviously have to see how it affects conversions. There is a general rule in Silicon Valley that you never go free once you've built a successful company with a paid version. But we've heard our customers, and we see or more, not the customers, but the people who want to be a part of Buildbox who, might be in high school or college on a limited budget, and we get that. So we are going to test a free version, and it will be very limited. I want to be totally upfront. You won't be able to export to iOS or Android. You'll only be able to use 5 scenes. So it's more just to get acclimated with the software, really understand how to use it. But then we're going to have cheaper versions as well that do let you export and stuff like that. There'll still be limited scenes. We'll have a $15 option we're going to test. So it'll be very interesting, man. I'm excited because we want to go wider. We want to make it more affordable for people. If we wouldn't have charged what we charged, we never would have built the company.
Yeah.
But now that we've gained some traction, I definitely want to try open it up so more people can enjoy the software. That'd be great.
Well, I can't recommend it highly enough. We're massive champions here. It's allowed us to create what. We built our company on the back of your software. So,
awesome.
we just, I don't know. I could just drool and drip forever, but I won't. But highly recommend Build. Perhaps I will. But yeah, so go and check it out. Buildbox.com, buildbox.com. Make sure you head over there. Get on an email list or whatever Trey's got going on there to make sure that if they do have trials and stuff, you'll get notified. And with that, I am going to say, Trey, thanks so much once again. Massive privilege to have you on here. And take it easy, dude. And thanks so much for being on.
That was fun, Kevin. Talk to you later, man.
You've been listening to the Rising High Extended Tea Break. To learn more about the resources mentioned in today's show, or to find out more about the Rising High Academy, visit RisingHighAcademy.com. That's RisingHighAcademy.com.